What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Pens and Tea. My name is Carrie, and today I do not have the things on my walls that I wanted to. Oh geez, I didn't realize that was like pointing right in front of me. So we're just gonna have to rock it. I also have been awake since 4:30 in the morning because my body just decided that was enough sleep. So if I'm a little bit loopy, forgive me. But today, I wanted to talk about my top 3 inks that I would recommend to somebody who doesn't have any. I thought long and hard about what I would do, and I thought about maybe doing my most recommended ink for each color, but I thought that would be a very long video, and I know that people like Brian Goulet, Drew Brown from the Goulet Pen Company, I'm pretty sure Tom from Gold Spot Pens, I'm pretty sure all of the retailers have done a video like that because of course they sell them and then they would have the actual colors to show you. So I didn't want to do that. Instead, I thought I would recommend what I think is my top 3 for somebody starting out brand new. I will put a caveat, like a little star or an asterisk beside that, and just say that if you're starting out brand new and you would want a black, then definitely get one. I did not include a black in my top 3 because I very rarely ever use it. And I think it's just because growing up, of course, having to use ballpoints, you only ever had blue or black, and black is just boring and dull in my opinion. But I don't draw, I don't use my fountain pens in a professional setting. So 2 of my recommendations, 2 and a slash, you'll understand in a minute, are very office friendly. One of them, maybe not. But these are the 3 I think that give you a good variety while also being solid choices. So that's where I'm coming at with these choices. All right, so the first one is a blue ink. And it's my favorite blue ink. It's pretty much the only blue ink other than Polar Glow that I use on a frequent basis. Polar Glow I actually mentioned in my most used inks during the winter, and it pretty much is always in my most used throughout the winter, but it's not one that I would recommend somebody get for the very first time because it can be a little bit tricky with the sheen. If you're not using the best paper, sometimes it can give you some issues. So my choice for the blue is Pilot Iroshizuku Tsuki-yo. It doesn't look like I've used a lot, but believe it or not, I have. This is a 50 ml bottle. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous blue. It gives you a nice, rich, deep blue and a bit of red sheen if you do pour it on. But if it's in a moderate to dry wet flow pen, then you won't see that sheen. It is a bit of an expensive ink, but it gives you a glorious bottle, one of my favorites. And this is a perfect all-around behaving ink. Flows really well, but it's not a gusher. Cleans out really well. Doesn't feather, too much on lesser quality papers. And it just all around is stunning. I've used many, many inks from the Iroshizuku line. In fact, I've tried them all. I've had several bottles at this point, but this is my favorite. So that's I think the most basic one that everyone should have. And then one that I chose that's outside of the box, and I have all these swatched and inked up that I'll show you in a moment when I'm done revealing what my choices are, in case you don't actually care. I chose to get one that's definitely a little outside the box. This is more of a fun ink. It's in the blue family, but it is definitely not anything like tsuki-yo. It's a very light blue that has some chromatic shading to it that can go from purple to pink to darker blue to lighter blue depending on the pen that you have it in, and that is Troublemaker Abalone, or abalone, however you want to pronounce that. This is my favorite Troublemaker ink. They come in plastic bottles here. You can kind of see through the bottle itself what the color looks like. This I would recommend having in a wetter writing pen so you can get like the most out of that ink, but it flows really well. It's a relatively wet performing ink, which is needed for this ink. Most of Troublemakers I find actually a little bit dry, but this one I don't. Like Milky Ocean is also really good, but that's drier than this, and I prefer this one. This one's a little bit easier to read. Milky Ocean's a little bit more vibrant. So I definitely recommend Abalone over Milky Ocean. It also cleans out pretty darn well. It's not a super saturated ink, so it cleans out really nicely out of your pens. It's going to give you something a little bit funkier, something a little bit more playful with your ink choices. And I think if you have 3, it's nice to have one that is a little bit more fun, however you want to describe that, over just like kind of your basic standard choices. So definitely recommend that one. Especially, like I said, in wet writers. If you have it in a really dry writer, probably not going to be great because it's going to be like a really pale blue, which is still pretty, but it's going to be difficult to kind of read. Like the legibility might not be there quite so much. This one's the one that I was meaning has like the slash on it, because the one that I want to actually recommend is not super widely available. So I have an ink that is very similar that is super widely available, but I do tend to prefer this one by a smidge. It is a Canadian exclusive through Wonder Pens, which is a Toronto shop, and it's through Dominant Industry. So it's the Dominant Industry Ginger Chicken exclusive. It's 25 ml bottle. This is a 60 ml bottle, by the way. So Iroshizuku is 50, this is 60. This is 25, which is a bit of a bummer. It's the only size available, but it is absolutely stunning. I love it so much. The only thing is, like I said, it is exclusive to the Toronto pen shop. So if you're outside of Canada, it is going to be a little bit hard to get your hands on it. Just because when they do have it in stock, it sells out really quickly, and B, it is going to be pretty expensive for you to ship it. I'm of two minds. I kind of think it's a little fair because, I mean, as a Canadian, I buy most of my stuff from the States, so shipping costs a pretty penny. But if you can, just place a larger order, try and make that shipping worth it. But I really adore this ink. It's a rich, like browny red color that does have some good shading. No sheening or shimmer or anything like that. It really gives you a nice, like rich, warm color. It's perfect for winter, for fall, for anything like that's comforting to me, anywho's. And I really love the bottle. It's super cute. I like that, like all the weight is in the bottom, so very similar to the Iroshizuku bottle. All the weight of that glass really means that like you're not going to tip this thing over. Troublemaker, you're gonna have to be a little bit more careful. It's possible that you could tip it, but not these two. But like I said, this one's a little bit difficult to get your hands on. So if you can't, an ink that's like super widely available almost everywhere, that's very similar to this is Diamine Ancient Copper. This bottle is 30 ml, but you can also get their 80 ml bottles if you really like that. This is not quite the same as the Dominant Industry. It's slightly darker. It does give you a little bit more shading than the Dominant Industry. Not a ton more. I mean, as you can tell, it's kind of similar, although the Dominant Industry is kind of actually giving you more red vibes through the camera than in reality. But it is very close. It's definitely not a match. It's not identical, but it's close. So if you like this ink and you have tried it, because like I said, it's very widely available, then you know you're going to like Dominant Industry ginger chicken. It's called ginger chicken, by the way, because the cat that they have is named Chicken, and it's an orange cat, so ginger chicken. They also have an ink called Tuna Gray, because they have another cat that's gray and they named it Tuna, which I do also own that ink, but it's not in my most recommended. Gray will pretty much never be in my most recommended because I don't hardly ever use it. But anyway, Ancient Copper, I've had a love-hate relationship with this. I love the color. In some pens, it performs phenomenally. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. It performs phenomenally in every pen, but in some pens, like my Lamy 2000, it does tend to give some barnacles, gets a little crusty around the nib. But in others, like I have this inked up currently in my Benu Briolette fountain pen, and I've had that inked up since January. It is now mid-April. Now, obviously, I've refilled it many, many, many times, but it's still singing like a bird and have had zero issues. So this one can sometimes be pen dependent upon whether or not it gives you some crusty barnacles. But other than that, it's a pretty good, well-behaving ink. So I'm going to show you some close-ups of the ink swabs that I've done, but in the close-up I didn't have Ancient Copper because my mind blanked on it. But this is the ginger chicken, and that's Ancient Copper. So that's what I mean. It's a little bit darker. It's not quite the same, but it's as similar as you're going to get that I have found, where you will be able to get it wherever you are, pretty much. And I do like the fact that you can get multiple size bottles between Diamond Ancient Copper and all the other ones. Let me see. I'm going to keep talking in the shadows. You're just going to stare at my back for a minute. You can get the 30 ml bottles, which I have in multiple colors, or where is it? You can get their 80 ml bottles, like I have with Diamine Writer's Blood. And that will take you quite some time to go through. This is the only Diamine that I have that is the 80 ml, because this will take me forever to go through. I also adore this ink, but I could only recommend 3. And those are the 3 that I went with. So what would be your top 3 most recommended? Let me know in the comment section down below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up and the like. That's the same thing. I told you guys, I've been working on 4 hours of sleep here. Hit the thumbs up and the subscribe if you want to watch all my videos every Monday and Friday and occasional Tuesday. While you're down there, check out the description for the link to my Patreon account if you want to help support me and what I do here. And as always, I'll see you next time.